And now to the race for Florida governor and what could be a rift between Republican nominee Ron DeSantis and the man many believe put him on the political map, President Trump.
It has to do with a tweet, this tweet, and a couple of others like it earlier this month. The president disputed that studies said nearly 3,000 people died in Puerto Rico because of Hurricane Maria. The president says it's just up to 16 people who died. When asked about that claim, Ron DeSantis did not back up the president.
Now, it's that perceived disloyalty that reportedly has the president fuming right now. Politico's Marc Caputo is here to talk about it. You have an article on this on the website, Mark?
Right. Well, kind of live by Trump and maybe die by Trump is what Ron DeSantis is experiencing right now, from what we understand from folks in Washington and in the White House. And Ron DeSantis' campaign is not disputing this, is that the president was rather upset to find that the guy he helped build up and carry across the finish line in the Republican primary now appears disloyal in his view and is not backing up the president. And the president doesn't like that. So currently, the president is saying he's probably not going to come to Florida and might not campaign for him. Now, the president does have a tendency to have a bit of a testy trigger finger. So folks are saying, who know him, if he just calms down a bit, the president's going to see that he needs Ron DeSantis in 2020 to be in the governor's mansion and not Andrew Gillum. So more than likely, he's going to probably settle down. Yeah, he's going to cool off, and eventually he's going to help campaign for him. But in the end, Florida is a swing state, and right now the president is not so popular. So this might not be so bad a thing for Ron DeSantis to have a little distance between him and the president.
But most people say that the president is what got DeSantis elected in the first place. We know loyalty is very important to President Trump. Is it possible that he would shut him out? I mean, short of endorsing Andrew Gillum, do you think that he might stay away from Florida and might not kind of come to his defense?
Well, good question. I did chuckle at the idea of President Trump endorsing Andrew Gillum. I was about to say I can never predict what the president's going to do. I don't see him endorsing Andrew Gillum, but you don't really know what the president's going to do until he does it. I think an important thing to remember is that in politics you dance with them that brung you, and right now, in President Trump's view, Ron DeSantis is, let's say, dancing to another tune.
All right, I'm assuming here the concern is the growing Puerto Rican vote in the state of Florida. We know that so many have moved to Central Florida. What I want to know have those folks, as far as you know, been registering to vote? Do we know which party they're registering to vote? And how much of a difference would this little spat between Ron DeSantis and the president make?
Great questions. We don't exactly know how many new Puerto Rican arrivals have come and have registered to vote, but there have been groups on the ground, and it's probably in the order of tens of thousands. Now, how much of that is on top of natural growth? Because remember, Puerto Rico's economy was terrible before the hurricane. The hurricane just made it worse. Sure. And that population has just grown in size. But for the first time, we're seeing both the Republican and the Democratic tickets, both the Senate race and the governor's race, make a real concerted play for this vote. And Florida has a history of razor-thin election margins, so every vote counts. And back to my original point, if indeed the president is having some distance, or DeSantis is putting some distance in between himself and the president, that could possibly help DeSantis, because if you look at the polling of Puerto Ricans, you look at the polling and the focus groups of Puerto Ricans in Central Florida, where they're clustered and where they live in great numbers, you're going to see that President Trump's approval rating is just awful. He is really in the negatives among Puerto Rican voters, as opposed to Florida voters at large, or United States voters. So not so bad a thing for Ron DeSantis, but this is a tightrope. It's a balancing act. He doesn't want to go too far left and doesn't want to have to go too far right. Again, it's Florida, close election, so get back to me on election night, maybe even after, to find out who really won.
Yeah, it's kind of a long-term game. Have you heard from anyone in the DeSantis camp, whether they're concerned or whether they're okay with the distance?
Well, they knew that President Trump was probably going to be upset about this. And the interesting thing they point out is the president doesn't seem to be as miffed at Rick Scott, who also put some distance in between himself and the president over it. But as one close Trump advisor had told us, the president has a tendency to respect money. Rick Scott has money, and Ron DeSantis doesn't. Ron DeSantis probably needs the president more than Rick Scott does.
All right, very interesting developments. Marc Caputo from Politico, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.